Welcome to the Mavs Fans for Life podcast. I am Landon Thomas. I am joined always by Shahnavaz, Makhani, my co-host. Today's episode, we are talking about the 4-0 start to the season by the Mavericks. Only two teams remain undefeated. The Mavericks are one of them. And we'll be talking about Kyrie Irving. He is back in the lineup tonight against the Denver Nuggets in the first ever in-season tournament game. So we'll talk about just our thoughts overall on the in-season tournament and the uniforms that they will be playing at the home games of the in-season tournament. So, Shahnavaz, a lot to talk about. First of all, let's just go on the 4-0 start. They defeated the Spurs, the Nets, Grizzlies, and Bulls. They're currently second offensively, and they're 19th in defensive rating and 4th in net rating. Just first of all, what stands out to you most during this 4-0 start?
A couple things, Landon. Again, it's early in the season, right? We don't, and the opponents, they're not beating. It's not like they're going up against Denver, Milwaukee, Boston, the general.
They will tonight.
They will tonight, so it's a big test, tonight for the Mavericks. But look, these are games that the Mavericks lost last year, right? All of them have been relatively close games. They're games that the Mavericks generally blew last year. Made bad coaching decisions, bad shot making. Luka's been, just on a tear. I think he's 5 of 6 from 3 in clutch situations in the fourth quarter. I think you're seeing more chemistry than we've seen probably since Jalen Brunson left. The role players are stepping up, and we've seen obviously great games from Grant Williams. For all the flack that we give Tim Hardaway Jr., he might be the second most consistent player on this team right now after Luka. Not seeing Kyrie play. And Derrick Jones Jr., for all the hate that he got, putting up 22 against Memphis, that was pretty great. Josh Green's been playing well. Dwight Powell off the bench. I know Mavericks fans don't like seeing Dwight Powell on the court, but he blocked Jaren Jackson Jr. 4 times. That's the reigning defensive player of the year, He played phenomenal, in limited minutes off the bench. And so I think you're starting to see this team kind of come together a little bit, right? Especially after all the offseason additions. You're slowly starting to see things gel. It's going to be interesting to see how, now that Kyrie's going to be back tonight, it's going to be interesting to see how that kind of works out, because you could tell in the first game against San Antonio, he obviously didn't play well, still scored, still hit a clutch 3, off a pass from Luka. So it'll be nice to see how they integrate Kyrie back into things. But I'm encouraged. I think, I don't put too much stock in the defensive rating right now because, again, a lot of new faces. And honestly, if you look at their defensive rating in the fourth quarter, it's significantly better than it is in the first 3 quarters. So, if you can lock it down when the time comes, that's all that matters at that point. If you're winning those close games and you're making stops on the defensive end when you need to, then this team's going to be perfectly fine. So I'm definitely encouraged by the 4-0 start.
Yeah, I agree with you. When you look at the schedule, we all thought, the Mavs had an opportunity to collect some of these wins and get off to a great start. But just seeing it in fruition and also seeing it in late clutch games, like you mentioned, is incredible to see to begin the season. And also Jason Kidd, who will be out tonight. Mark Stein reported that he will miss the game tonight due to a non-COVID illness. You think maybe Kyrie text him and say, "Hey, I got you tonight. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about this, man. I got you. I'll take care of it.
I got you." And that's what it's really a test to the chemistry, like you said, because last season the chemistry was awful. They just went out there and hooped. Theo Pinson did his best to collect everybody together, but it wasn't the same as the previous season. And Kyrie was new, so he was just hooping. And this season, everyone's together, and they're not only saying it, but you're seeing it. And the overseas trip helps as well. When you go overseas with the same people for 12 days, you're going to learn about each other, and you're going to see how you interact with each other off and on the court. And that's what you're seeing right now. You're seeing leadership from Luka and Kyrie and Grant, all in different ways. But it's very opportunistic when you see Grant come into this team and he is pulling Luka to go back to the bench and
Yep.
he's talking to the refs, especially, just last season he had some DMPs in clutch situations and he started like 20 games for the Boston Celtics, but now he's not only playing great, but he's showing true leadership to this team. So I think that stands out to me is Grant's leadership, the chemistry, and then also, like I said, Jason Kidd, his late game situations, his timeout management, and also just showing more of coaching on the court instead of just sitting on the bench just watching.
Yeah.
No one's dying, but like he's actually coaching this team and he's given learning situations to the young players too. So that's very eye-opening in this 4-0 start.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also think it's a big part that Luka's, he's playing more minutes, I think, than he did last year, but his efficiency rating is
Yeah.
the best it's been since his rookie year. His usage rate is the lowest it's been since his rookie year. And he's not playing the entire first and fourth quarters. Like, he's getting rest. There's a trust.
Yes,
There's
that's a
a
good
trust
point.
in teammates that we can take Luka off the floor and, we're not going to lose a 12-point lead. We're not going to lose a 20-point lead. We don't
No.
have to put Luka in for 42 out of 48 minutes a game. Like, he can play 34, 36 minutes. That's fine at, the beginning of the season. And I'm sure, that's going to waver throughout the year. But we talked about it, I think, on the first pod that Luka shouldn't, at the beginning of the season, like, we don't want to see Luka playing 40 minutes a game. Like, he needs to be in that 33 to
No.
36 range, preserve himself
Yeah.
for the end of the year, right? When the time comes and he's got to play in almost a full game, he will. But it's a very encouraging sign to see this team be able to win some of these close games without Luka on the floor, without Kyrie on the floor, and this team is still holding their
Yeah.
lead and still holding their own. And granted, not against the best teams. Memphis has a lot of injuries. Chicago is a dumpster fire, and that's going to be a really interesting situation come trade deadline time what they do. But these are the teams that the Mavericks lost to last year, right? So it's
Yeah.
when you take that into account, it's very encouraging to see them be able to close those games out and do it primarily without Luka on the floor and throughout the last two games without Kyrie.
And not only without Luka on the floor, those non-Luka minutes,
Mm-hmm.
even Luka on the floor when he's having a bad game, like
Yep.
the Bulls game.
Yep.
We haven't seen a game like that from him in a long time, and he's trusting his teammates to step up for him. Like you mentioned, Derek Jones, Grant Williams, and THJ. They're really stepping up and showing that they have the capability to do that when Luka is having a bad game, when Kyrie is out with an injury. And so when those guys are both on the court and they're, being Luka and being Kyrie, it just makes it so much better where those role players don't have to
Mm-hmm.
step up. They just, execute their role on the team. But when you have situations like that, they can do it. And that's very encouraging to see as well. And also the pace. We have to mention the pace too.
Absolutely.
He's not, controlling the ball. I mean, the usage might be similar, but he's pushing the pace. He's trusting teammates. And some of those passes, I mean, you have to be ready. Like Lively, Derek Jones, Josh Green, they always have to have their head on a swivel because Luka is trusting his teammates, and they're talking about him trusting those teammates because not only when they're on fast break, when Luka gets doubled,
Yep.
they also have to play in those 4-on-3 situations. So it's just very encouraging to see that the pace as well.
Yeah, and I can't remember the last time the Mavericks played this fast. Like it's been a long time since I remember them actually getting
I
out
know
in
I got like
transition.
neck cramps, just
It's
going
just
back
like
and forth like tennis.
it's like
Just going.
but it's awesome to see, right? Because I mean I understand Luka and Kyrie are unbelievable half court offense players, right? But those easy baskets, the ones that the same baskets they gave up to San Antonio, in the first game of the year off those rebounds, right? San Antonio just pushed the ball up and they were
Yep.
getting 4-on-5, 3-on-5. You're starting to see the Mavericks take advantage of those situations, and that's it's an amazing thing to see because we haven't seen it probably in the last 5-6 years.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a while, and it's very. I guess that's a perfect segue to our next topic, Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving is back. Reported by Shams that he is returning from a foot sprain. He missed the last 2 games, and we just talked about pushing the pace and just Luka trusting his teammates and getting the ball outside of his hands. Kyrie returns tonight. What's your thoughts on him coming back for the team?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, especially against Denver. I mean, this is the first kind of real test, for the Mavericks going up against the defending champs.
Yeah.
It playing in Denver is not easy, right? We know all about the altitude and how that can affect players. Um, it's going to be interesting to see how they integrate. He didn't have a great game against San Antonio, but like I said earlier, he hit a clutch shot. Luka found him when it mattered. And it's going to be, I'm fascinated to see kind of how they play off each other, especially now that you're seeing Grant Williams get more involved, Tim Hardaway Jr. get more involved. I really want to see how they distribute, those shots, and when push comes to shove in those clutch minutes, are we going to see kind of what we saw in San Antonio where Kyrie deferred to Luka, right? If Kyrie's got the hot hand tonight, I want to see Luka, THGA, and Josh Green deferring to Kyrie and let him cook, and vice versa, right? If there's somebody else that's got the hot hand, I mean, you don't want to see, a situation where any of these players are demanding for the ball. You want to see a good team offense and ball movement, and against Denver, who's a great defensive team, reigning MVP, reigning champs, like it's the first kind of real test for the Mavericks, and it's good that Kyrie's back because now we'll kind of get to see the full roster at its at its peak against one of the toughest opponents they're going to play this year.
And he's been open with it as well. He's been open, very candid with how he's playing. He said he's frustrated. He wanted to play extremely well in that game against a Mavs rival, San Antonio Spurs, and then that home opener he wanted to play very well too. So he talked about his frustration. He's averaging 19 and a half points per game at 39% from the field, and also 6 assists, 4.5 rebounds. So his playmaking is fine, finding teammates. His rebounding is great. It's just the shots aren't going down. He's getting good looks. It's not it's he's out of place, or he's getting good looks. But he talked about it, just missing preseason games and getting his legs under him, getting in the gym, getting in the weight room as well, so he can get that balance on his shots. And we'll see tonight. I mean, he did have a mild foot sprain, so we'll see how his shots are tonight. And like you said, I'm interested in the fourth quarter. Hopefully it's a close game, because I want to see this Mavericks team. They've been in close games in the four games they played in, but I want to see it against a contender, against a good team, to see where they're at. And I think he'll do well. He's one of the best shooters of all time, and it's Kyrie, so I think he's gonna figure it out eventually. But it might take a little bit of time, just getting his body back.
And I do like the fact that you just mentioned he's averaging 19 points, but the 6 assists. I mean, that's awesome. That tells me that he's, even though his shot's not following me, you're not seeing a player that's pouting or upset at I'm sure he's upset at himself, like you've talked about, but he's getting other people involved, right? He's not kind of jogging up the court and holding on a ball and taking bad shots. Like, he's getting good looks. They're not going down. So what does he do? He's getting other people involved. It's not my night. Let me pass the ball off. And that's fantastic. That's exactly what you want to see.
And that's the formula for Maverick success, right? We've seen it a couple of years ago. We might see a different Kyrie. We might not see the same Kyrie averaging 27, but we might see a Kyrie average 23, 24, but a great field goal percentage and 6 assists, like you said, be that second playmaker. And this might push Luka to ultimately finally having the MVP season, because it looks like it is so far. And speaking of end of season awards, I mean, Tim Hardaway Jr., I'm glad to see what I know you talked about a little bit, but I mean, I guess we can dive into it. Has this surprised you, or what's your thoughts on what's your assessment on how he's played in the past 4 games?
He's played great. It's not surprising, in that sense. I think what I want to see is I want to see after the
Because it
first.
was a little awkward. I
It is.
mean,
Yeah, oh yeah,
on what
absolutely.
his role was,
And
talking to
yeah,
the kid.
yeah, we talked about that, right? The lack of communication and not understanding. Kid coming out and saying, "Well, he's going to be sixth man of the year," and we're all like, "Wait, what about
Yeah,
Jaden Hardy? Like, I thought that was going to be sixth man of the year," and now we're
yeah,
propping up Tim Hardaway in that. And look, he's played great. He's embraced his role, right? And Landon, we talked about this. We said if you just let him know he's a veteran, he'll accept his role. He knows what he's supposed to do, and he's done that. He's
yeah.
come in off the bench. He's hit great shots. I mean, he's had some defensive lapses. We saw that against Brooklyn. Where I think Maxey and Luka both got on him for missing, the assignment on Royce O'Neal on that three, towards the end of the game. But he's played great. Like he's hitting his shots. What I want to see is what's gonna be very telling for me is after that first bad game, right? Or even during the first bad game where he goes 3 of 10, he goes 3 of 11. Like, is he still trying to hoist up shots? Is he still trying to,
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it in the San Antonio game. The first half, he had 15 points, and the second half, he just was missing everything. Right? I want to see what happens. Again, like is he going to revert back to the same old Tim Hardaway Jr. where he's just trying to get his own shot, or is he going to play within the system and play within what this team needs and pass the ball off or drive to the lane? Like we've seen him pass up a couple threes and a couple mid-range jumpers to drive to the lane, which has been awesome to see, because I think he can be the best version of himself when he's attacking inside and out and not just catch and shoot 3-pointers. So I really want to see when that game happens, if it's tonight or if it's sometime next week. I really want to see how he performs when he's playing poorly.
Yeah, and you just mentioned it. With THJ, let's just be honest here. I mean, THJ is the streakiest player in the league. I mean,
Really
if
is.
it's not Jordan Clarkson, it's Tim Hardaway Jr. Because you just mentioned it. His the first 2 games were like night and day regarding the first half and second half. He starts hot, and then the second half he can't buy a basket at all. And then the last 2 games, he's really been nice. The whole game, and it's nice to see. And like you said, I like when he's not just dependent on the jump shot. Like that's how he gets hot, and that's great. And the Mavs really need it because they don't have a third option. And it's really nice to see it. And then when he does the pump fakes and he gets to the mid range, or he has that dribble drive to the basket, it really, you see the full and best version of Tim Hardaway Jr. And that's what is really nice with this team, because he can be one of those guys that benefits off the gravity pull of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving to get those open shots, like Grant Williams, Derek Jones, Josh Green, Maxi Kleba, and then you got Tim Hardaway Jr. You got all these guys who can make shots, and then you have a big man inside with Lively, and then also Powell, who can play the pick and roll game, or you can throw the lob. It makes the offense beautiful to watch. I mean, they're second right now in the league, and there's a big gap from second to third. I mean, Boston, who's first, who's having an incredible run offensively as well, and then Dallas. It's just crazy to think about if Kyrie gets back to being Kyrie. I mean, this offense can be historically one of the best offenses we've seen in a while, and Mavs are used to that.
Yeah.
Mavs are used to it when they get it going. They just gotta be at least average on defense. Just be at least 15.
Which they're creeping their way back up, right? You mentioned they're 19th, right?
Yeah.
But you look at their fourth quarter defensive efficiency and they're top 10. Like if you're getting stops in the fourth quarter, that's
what they haven't played. They haven't played one of those top teams, so that's
right. And
that's where
that's why tonight's a huge test, right? Tonight's a huge test. Next Friday is against the Clippers, right? When you've got their 6 different all-stars that all need the ball, like that's it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out next Friday. So I mean, this is a big stretch for Dallas to kind of see what they are. And I wanted to ask you this because it's been on my mind. We're talking about THJ, we're talking about him coming off the bench. What's going on with Jaden Hardy? Like, we came in with such high expectations for him, in the season. Steph's or excuse me, Seth is getting the minutes over him, which understandable. I think there's a little bit more trust there, just him being a veteran.
And Dante.
And Dante's in for his defense, right? Which, by the way, I'm blown away by how great he's been defensively. Like, he's been awesome. Like,
Maybe you just
even against bad opponents. I mean,
it.
playing overseas, like, he's been great, and maybe that's the answer. Like, I was interested with Kyrie out, like how much Jaden Hardy's going to play, and played a little bit, but I didn't see anything that's going to push him over Dante or Seth right now. So, what are your thoughts on Jaden Hardy and what the Mavs do from here with him?
I'm a big Jaden Hardy fan. I like Jaden Hardy. I think he has potential. His style fits for the modern NBA. He is a combo guard. He's 6'3", and he's a scorer. He's a shooter, and it's very telling. Once they got Steph Curry, I was like, "Ooh, okay." Because it was kind of out of left field. I mean, he could shoot. I like Seth too. He's one of the best shooters, especially when you're getting wide open looks from Luka and Kyrie. But it hampered, Jaden's potential because I talked to Jaden in the offseason, and he was working on his defense. He was working on his playmaking. He was working on building up his upper body strength so he can finish at the rim, and he was preparing for a run that we kind of see from THJ. He was preparing for a sixth man of the. That's one of his goals was sixth man of the year. He was preparing for a big season, and once they signed Seth, I was like, okay. And then when they got Dante, I mean, both of those guards, I'm like, okay, maybe Hardy's going to take a step back, and like you said, kids going to trust veterans. Yep. I mean, Dante has the defense, Seth has the offense, the shooting, and you're kind of seeing them both split the minutes that Hardy had last season. So, I mean, right now it looks like even kids said it. Luka and Kyrie are not going to play every game, and we saw Hardy take a step up when Kyrie was out, and he has flashes. I mean, we see him make big shots, but you still want to see him have a time span on the court, because that's how he develops his confidence. If you saw last season, the more he played within a game, not just overall, the more he played within a game, the more confident he got and the more streaky he got. So it's night and day when I think about it, because this is also a team that's trying to win.
Yeah.
So, someone has to sacrifice, and that is Hardy, even though the run that he had last year was incredible to see, and the potential in his growth was astronomical, trending up. But it at the same time, they're trying to win. So I get it. Playing the veterans, and you're in win now mode, so you got to do whatever you can to win.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
What's your thought? You think he should play over Seth or Dante?
I thought over Dante initially because the guy's been overseas for so long and we haven't really seen him play. Yeah. But I mean, the way you're kind of getting the best of both worlds with Dante and Seth, right? Like, you're getting the offensive ability of Seth, and you're getting a pretty good perimeter defender in Dante, which Seth's proven it in this league, and Dante's proving it right now. And it's not like Dante was sitting on his couch for the last 3-4 years, right? He was playing professional basketball just overseas, right? So, I mean, I think we all know Jason Kidd's proclivity to play veterans over rookies, or young players. It's just kind of frustrating because there's such high hopes for him, right? And we know the talent that he has, and how are you going to showcase that if you're not on the court? And I just think, when the time comes where Kyrie's out or Luka's out, and he's, maybe not in the starting lineup, but he's coming off the bench and he's getting 20, 25 minutes, he's got to showcase what he can do. And I think that's the only way he's going to earn Jason Kidd's trust to get back in the rotation. I think he's got to prove that he belongs.
You said it well, because that's what it really boils down to. When you get those opportunities, you can't show flashes. You got to show the whole time you're on the court. Yep. And that's the only way he's going to play you instead of Steph Curry. I think Dante is going to play regardless, because as you see his rotations, and you really see Kid loving defense and
Mhm.
size. I mean, that's why Derrick Jones is starting over Josh Green. I mean, and Dante is playing over Hardy. I mean, he really likes size. He
Yeah.
really likes big bodies who can play different positions. The fluidity of positionless basketball, and that's why Josh Green, he has to step up too. I mean, he's showing flashes.
Yeah.
He's playing more than Hardy. I mean, he just got the bag. I want to see Josh Green take that next step, because that just makes this Mavericks. If Kyrie can play Kyrie
Yep.
and Josh Green can meet the potential that we put upon him, I mean, this team,
It's gonna be hard to
maybe
beat.
Jason Kidd knows what he's doing.
Maybe we'll
Maybe.
see. I mean, it off to a good start. Like, there's not really any
Yeah.
complaints, right? Like, you start 4-0, like you're gonna nitpick at that point of like, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong. Like, oh, you started Maxi game one. Okay,
Yeah.
we won. Like, at the end of the game, it was Derek Lively out on the court. Like that,
Yeah.
it's so hard at this point when you're 4-0. It's kind of hard to say what's going wrong.
Yeah. Well, that's what's very interesting, because tonight they finally play a top team, and then Kids out. You
Yep.
know, you're missing that voice. You're missing that consistency of the past 4 games. Who's leading the show? So I'm very interested to see how Sean Sweeney takes that opportunity for himself. Since we're talking about opportunities, I
Yep.
mean, he had all the hype after the Western Conference Finals run, and then last season, you're like, well, who's the top assistant for defense? And because that defense was horrible, so now it's his time this season and this moment. You're looking at him to show, hey, I'm still a head coach candidate around this league.
Yeah, and I'm
What do you
interested.
think about Sean Sweeney, having that game tonight?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. It's about taking your opportunities, right? I mean, there's none better than going up against the defensive champ or the defending champs, right? And the reigning
Yeah.
MVP, or the 2-time MVP in Nikola Jokic. So I'm interested to see what the starting lineup looks like. Like, I feel like this is another uh like Derek Lively off the bench game, right? Just especially with Jokic out there and the way Lively's gotten into foul trouble, this last game or two. Um,
Yeah.
I'm interested to see how that pans out. Is Grant Williams going to be the one guarding Jokic? There's so many different variables that can go into it. But you're right. Like, this is going to be an opportunity. Whether the Mavs win or lose, this is going to be an opportunity for Sean Sweeney to kind of showcase defensively against Jokic and the Nuggets what he can do as a head coach. Right. This is his opportunity to kind of say, hey, look, I'm going to throw my hat back into the ring as when those jobs open up, I better be getting phone calls.
Yeah, and it's and you just mentioned matchups. Sweeney is a defensive guy.
Mhm.
They also have Alex Jensen. We got to give him a shout out as well. He's a veteran coach in Utah for years. But you have Sweeney, who's a defensive guy. I really am looking forward to the matchups, like you mentioned. Like, does he start Lively? And if he does start Lively, does he start Lively against Aaron Gordon? And Grant Williams gets the matchup against Jokic. So Grant can play on the perimeter more, in the mid range at the elbow more, while Jokic is carving the defense up, while Lively can play against a big who is more inside,
Mhm.
in Gordon. That'll be interesting to see as well. So look, we kind of segue into our third topic, which is the in-season tournament. So let's talk about that. For those that don't know, this is new. It's a mid-season tournament. It tips off tonight with group play. Each team will play 4 group play games on Tuesdays and Fridays in November. 8 teams will advance to single elimination knockout rounds, which consist of the quarterfinals and in the team markets on TNT, and then semifinals will be on ESPN and TNT as well, and then the championship on ABC in Las Vegas in T-Mobile Arena. Um, First of all, Shahnavaz, what do you think about the mid-season, this new concept of having a mid-season tournament in the NBA? Do
I
you
think
like it or no?
I think it's just a way to get viewership up. Like, you're competing right now against the prime of the NFL season, right? when you're competing up
Yeah.
against
In college too.
college football right now. You've got Premier League soccer, EPL. I mean, whatever sport you watch, the cricket World Cup's going on. Like, there's a lot of
You be
different.
watching cricket?
I mean, I got friends that watch cricket. They're always bothering me about it.
Okay.
There's so much going on right now. It's the holidays, right? Thanksgiving's coming up, Christmas is coming up. I think it's just a way to get viewership. This is kind of a lull time for the NBA. I think when you talk about November, December. So I think it's just a way to make things fun and give fans something to cheer about, like not just a regular season game. Like, hey, this is a tournament. Like, are you going to get knocked out or are you not? There's that kind of added element to it. But at the end of the day, it doesn't do anything for your standings. Doesn't do anything for your seeding. And when it comes to playoffs, like it's just kind of fun to have. I get it from the NBA's perspective, right? To try to get more people to watch, but I don't see the benefit of it.
Yeah, it's just viewership. Just like you said, just get more eyes on it.
Yeah.
And I really don't see the point of it unless they really make it some incentive. Obviously players are not going to play hard in the All-Star game, right?
Right.
But they're going to play hard in regular season games, So you got to make some sort of incentive in this mid-season tournament for, fans, media, players, coaches to really care about it. I mean, there's money involved, so that cares for the bottom players who don't make that much money. But it's a star-driven league, so that little chump change is not going to do much for them. If they're feeling like they need to take a night off, you're probably going to have one of them take a night. You can't take two, or you get that fine. But there has to be some sort of incentive, like the winners of this NBA in-season tournament, their conference will get home court advantage in the finals. Because then you can't say, oh, you got to play hard in the All-Star game, to have an incentive for the finals. But like, these are regular season games, so they're going to play hard. They're going to play hard.
That's the hope.
So why not add that incentive?
Yeah, I mean that's the hope, right? I would hope that players will play hard. I mean, for all the load management rules that are out there, I mean, we've already seen teams try to get around that. I mean, Phoenix hasn't started Bradley Beal all year. Devin Booker missed like 3 games with some random injury. Like, teams will find a way around it if they have to. I agree. I think that if you want, I think this is just a trial run, right? Let's see what happens. Let's see what the viewer numbers are, and then perhaps next year they add some incentive into it. I mean, I don't think they'll do anything with seeding, in terms of like end of the year, playoff positioning, anything like that. Like it's too controversial to do that. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know what they would do, to be honest. I mean, I tried to fix the All-Star game for years, and now they're just going to say we're going to go back to East-West. Like, that's fine. Like, I think it's going to take a couple of years of this tournament to kind of figure out exactly what it means, and what does it look like from a viewership perspective.
That's really what it boils down to for the league perspective. But just from our perspective, me speaking personally, the name is the laziest name I ever seen in my life. I mean, in-season tournament. I mean, come on, man. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, you could even went with what they have in the WNBA. They call their in-season tournament the Commissioner's Cup. I mean, that sounds pretty fire. I mean, if you're trying to build
something, it's like you're chasing something, right?
Exactly. Or is the NBA Cup, is that still a thing? Because I feel like they pushed that a little bit, but now they're like full blown in-season tournament.
Yeah.
Like, what is the trophy called? Is it in-season tournament championship?
No idea.
Or is it
couldn't tell you.
NBA Cup something? What would you name it? What would you name it, Shahnavaz? If you're the commissioner of the league and you have this in-season tournament, which is what they called it, what would you call the tournament?
Oh, that's tough. Put me on the spot. Man. off the top of my head, I wish it was off the top. If it was midway through the season, I would have called it like midway mayhem or something. Like just I feel like that like adds like some intrigue. But this is like you're 2 weeks, 3 weeks into the season. Like, what are you gonna like? I don't like it's so hard to like come up with it. I think that you have to push it. First off, you got to push it to like. I think
see how it goes first.
Yeah, I think they'll see how it goes. Honestly,
they can name it later.
If they did this in like January, like after, like you're talking
Christmas mayhem or New Year's Classic.
New Year's Classic. Like if you're talking doing it, I would do it around New Year's or into January during the weekdays when everyone's kind of pissed that they got to go back to work. It's the new year, like you're making all your resolutions. But all the bowl games are on, like all the good bowl games are on weekends. The NFL playoffs are on Saturday, Sunday. You do this like a five-day stretch of just like a straight up tournament. Like that's going to be awesome, right? Like we got nothing to watch.
Yeah.
Right? Regular season football's over. Fantasy football's over. College football's done. You're just waiting for bowl games. What are you going to do during the week? Hey, it's the New Year's Classic this week. Like, let's watch, right? Like that would be awesome. I would be like, all right, man, like I'm ready. Like, let's watch, before this is like right before the All-Star break when, you start seeing that, teams that are kind of pulling away in the standings, start like, all right, making trade plans and load management becomes
it's too early.
Like you put it right in that January sweet spot. I think that would, you'll get a lot of viewers that way.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then, it's really weird that they have the strategy that they do, but I guess we kind of have to see it play out. Also an idea is, okay, so this is a regular season tournament, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the stock and the investment that they have in this tournament is crazy. I mean, we could talk about it in the next topic with the uniforms and the courts, but just like, this is a mid-season tournament, so a regular season. So why not have like the coach who's had the most regular season wins, Greg Popovich?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why not call it the Popovich Cup or something like, well, he's still coaching, but like you got to give it a name or just say like the best player to ever play, Michael Jordan, in my opinion, or when LeBron retires, name it after him. Like make it the Jordan Classic, the LeBron James Classic or something where you can give it some, just some pizzazz or something.
Yeah, because right now it's
season tournament. Come on, man.
Nobody's excited for it. It's just another regular season game. Like that's really all it is. Like
it's like the playoffs being called postseason tournament, and you just roll with that. The NBA championship, NBA finals, end of postseason championship.
Adam Silver,
like,
get your marketing department in shape.
It's like the Clippers' first logo that they came out. Remember, it was like
so bad.
It was like word art or whatever they had.
Over like a basketball. It was the those jerseys were awful. The only player I can ever picture in that
is art. I mean, come on.
The only player I can ever picture in that jersey is Michael Olowokandi. That's it. That's the only one I can think of.
Yeah.
And then Corey Maggette.
Okay.
Those really bad Clippers teams, I remember.
Yeah. Shout out to Maggette though.
No.
He was a baller.
He was decent.
Okay, so Shahnavaz, our last big topic of this episode is the uniforms. Obviously we covered the Mavs, so let's talk about the Mavs city uniform. I will have to describe what it is. It's a homage to the Blues, back in the Dallas neighborhood of Deep Ellum, and just how the Blues originated in Texas, and it was also a collaboration with Leon Bridges. His hometown is in Fort Worth, and he's very artistic. He's a soul singer, traditional R&B. So you got the vibe. You saw the promo. It's all blues oriented. I think they're called Trinity River Blues, even though they're black. Are they black? It's kind of like that dress. I mean, is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What color is it?
What color is it?
Looks like it's blue, I think.
Yeah, it's very dark, moody blue that they call black, and that's why I'm really interested in seeing um is actually when they play in it
Hmm.
because lighting and promos and leaks. I mean, first of all, those leaks, I hated it
Yeah,
because it looked dull gray,
yeah,
and
they really.
now they're looking black and they're looking navy, deep navy too. So I don't know what to think about it. But first of all, what's your thoughts on the
So
uniforms itself?
when I first saw it, I thought the exact same thing you did. I thought it was a deep gray, like those old ugly gray uniforms we used to have. I
Yeah,
was like, oh my
the
god, you got to
trash can ones.
yeah. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man! Not this again.
Yeah,
Um,
and then you sweated; it was a different color.
um, I I've warmed up to them. I mean, I they're better than the graffiti ones for sure, right?
Oh
Those
yes.
were just god awful. They're better
Oh,
than the what was it? The black with like the neon green letters over the DAL. Dennis Smith Jr. wore the I think
yeah.
his rookie year. I didn't
Those
like
were
those.
bad too.
I think they're
The Pegasus. What do you think about the Pegasus?
I like the Pegasus.
The the gold ones,
Oh, the gold ones. Yeah, those are
the white
probably
and gold,
third, fourth on my list. I My favorites were last year's. I think last year's city uniforms were awesome. The green, the
green.
going back to the
Yeah.
green.
Oh yeah.
I think
Anything green. Yeah.
those were clean. I think those were awesome. My favorite Mavericks uniform, I will say, is the one that had the skyline and had.
Oh,
And
the navy blue.
yeah, those were by far my
Those
favorite
are so
Mavericks uniforms.
good.
Those
Why
were.
don't they go with the skyline? Dallas has the best. Well, yeah, I might be biased, but Dallas has the best skyline in the U.S.
We need to we need to revamp the jerseys because I'm tired of the white and the royal blue that we always wear. The statement uniforms are dope. I love those.
Yeah.
I like these. I mean, I think I would still put last year's ahead of these. But they're good. I mean, like you said, I want to see what they do on the court. I really like kind of the meaning behind it, right? Like I really like kind of the
Oh
story,
yeah.
right? For those you mentioned Leon Bridges. For those people listening who haven't heard Leon Bridges, go check him out. Unbelievable artist. Won a bunch of Grammys. I mean, he's from Dallas Fort Worth. Phenomenal artist. I mean, the guy is uber talented. But they've
Old
got
school
this,
music.
yeah. I mean, super chill, like just good music. They've got the stitching down the sides that have a bunch of quotes about Dallas and things like that, which I think is super
In
cool.
Fort Worth too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I like it. I like the meaning behind it. It's very similar to what the Rangers did with the Pegasus uniforms. The home
Yeah.
unis this year. So I like having meaning behind the uniforms. I think that's cool. I like the idea behind an alternate court as well because it gives you a little bit of different flair. I mean, they're not my favorites, but I'd put them up there top three. I mean, the Mavericks haven't had great uniforms anyway, so it's not really hard to put
Yeah.
them, to rank them. But I want to see what they look like.
Yeah.
Like, are they? I hope they're going with dark accessories with it because that would be dope. I don't want to see them wearing the white, arm
That'd be
sleeve.
dope.
Like, wear the dark blue. Like that would be cool because we haven't seen the Mavericks do that in a while. There's a lot of different
Yeah.
combos that can come with it, but it'll be cool to see. I think first time we're going to see it is next week against the Clippers on Friday. So,
Yep, that's the debut.
yeah, so it's going to be really cool to see. I mean, I'm excited. I think once you first get a glimpse at it, then you'll kind of I think that's when we'll be able to kind of gauge what the true opinion is. But right now they seem pretty cool. I mean, we'll find out, I guess.
Yeah, and I hope they are black. I hope they look black
Mhm.
because I mean we've seen so many navy uniforms in the Mavericks organization. The history of the jerseys that they wear. I want to see a black uniform. That would be nice if they do actually look black and have black accessories. I mean that
Yeah.
would be so cool too. Just seeing something different.
Yep.
That's what I want to see. And I also have to mention if you're looking for tickets. Uh, Make sure that y'all check out the December 1st game because Leon Bridges is performing after the game, a post-game concert. So that's kind of dope. I mean, you get
That's sick.
a NBA game as your opener for a
Amazing
concert. Who does that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be so awesome. So, just a tidbit because it's a 6:30 game and it's on ESPN.
There
So
you go.
there's so many factors involved in that, and they play in those uniforms too. and you'll see the court. So, um, we'll see how we'll see how they look in person on TV. That's another thing because some of these courts are awful.
Yeah,
I mean, did you see in the uniforms? I mean, just one that sticks out court wise is the Pelicans. I mean, they have purple and green all over the court.
It's going to be hard to.
Oh,
I don't know how they're going to do that lighting, lighting wise, or how that's going to look on TV. It's going to be.
That's what I'm saying on TV and in person. I mean,
that's a bad idea.
Oh, jeez. Some of the uniforms look nice.
I like Sacramento's.
Some of them look really bad.
Yeah,
Sacramento's is nice. Also like Milwaukee's.
Milwaukee's is cool.
They look pretty cool.
I like Cleveland's.
Ooh, yes. Very settled too.
Yeah.
They're not as egregious or bold as some other uniforms.
I didn't like
Memphis's. The Land.
Yeah, Memphis's was okay.
No, it's just basic.
Yeah, there's a few out there that are pretty cool, but most of them are just
the Nets were bad. I did not like the net.
Yeah, Nets
all that paint. Just
Chicago was okay. Portland was pretty cool. I think it's those are. I mean, I think that also plays into the tournament, right? Like, it's a way to market the tournament and being like, hey, look, like new uniforms, new courts, like this all goes back to the NBA's marketing strategy.
But and I'll end on this. I mean, we talked about it, but if the league is putting this much effort into an in-season tournament that's basically regular season games, I mean, what the winner and semifinals will probably be, a few teams might have a couple more games on the record, but if the league is putting this much investment into regular season games, why don't we have that much in playoffs? Why don't we have that much in the finals? I mean, did you remember the finals? The only thing I saw with a trophy on it was those pads under the goal. Like, put them back on the court.
Yeah.
Put the finals sticker up back on the court. Put finals everywhere in the arena, just so you feel like, okay, this is different.
Finals logo, yeah.
Yes. Even if you don't make the finals, like Western Conference Finals, put that everywhere, or put playoffs in the first, 2 rounds, put that everywhere in the arena. So it doesn't feel like a regular season game when you walk in, because when you're walking in these arenas for this in-season tournament, you feel like you're in a different, you're in a different city. Like, exactly. So why not put that much investment into your actual main product is the finals in the playoffs? That's where you want to see, ooh, they made the playoffs, they get new uniforms. Or, hey, ooh, the finals, they get new this. You got to do something. Ooh, they get a new court if you make the finals or Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Just do something.
Yeah. I like that.
Okay, Shahnavaz, final words. What are you looking for? There's a lot. What are you looking forward to tonight in the Mavericks versus Nuggets game?
It's the first big test for the Mavericks. It'll be. I want to see. I want to see the same ball movement. I want to see the same aggressiveness, the same tempo. Running up tempo. Especially with Kyrie back. I want to see it all gel together. We've seen it a little bit. We haven't had all the pieces together yet. It feels like this is going to be the first time that everyone's. You've had a couple games on your belt. You've had training camp. You've had preseason. Let's get your core 10 guys out there, and let's see what you can do against the defending champs.
Those are good points. I want to see the role players step up in a big way, like they have been. Yep. On national TV, it's on ESPN. It's the first in-season tournament game. I mean, Luka's going to be Luka, and hopefully Kyrie can get back to being Kyrie. But I want to see Derek Jones do what he does these past 4 games. I want to see Grant Williams, THJ. Those are the main 3 guys. You could throw Josh Green in there too. Those 4 guys. I want to see them not maybe have the game that they had last game because Kyrie was out, but just rise to the occasion, because it makes this team better when those role players are playing really well, and it also gives Nico some assets.
There you go.
You know,
Yep.
so it makes the team better, but it also makes, just trading better. It makes just, gives Nico a toolbox to, to get something back. So I just want to see them play good. That's all I want to see. I want to see those role players play on national television, play good, because if they play good, they have a great chance against the defending champs. And what a way to start the season, 5-0. And you finally
huge.
beat the contender. I mean, that's a great start. We'll see.
That'd be huge.